Well, a very good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, wherever you might be in the world. Welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is Anna and I create all the content here, and I've got a website, and the primary focus is to share information with other people so that we can interact and you can share your opinions and views and thoughts and experiences with me for other people to see on the channel as well. You know, if they visit to watch the videos, they can see the comments, and this is part of growing the pool of knowledge. So I invite you and encourage you and welcome you to leave a comment and to make your opinions. Now, before I get into today's video, just wanted to mention that to help keep me motivated, if you find anything useful at all on the channel that I give or on the videos, if you could just give us a thumbs up, that helps to keep me motivated. I know subscribing to channels is not everybody's cup of tea, because especially if you get notifications and that, and I do try to load, I aim to load about 5 or 6 videos a week. So that's the aim. Sometimes I make it, sometimes I don't. Anyway, before I get into today's topic as well, just a thank you in advance for participating and joining me today. I really appreciate it. What else can I tell you as far as housekeeping goes for the channel? Basically, I am not a geologist. I am not anything like that. I work in the metaphysical field. I've got work experience. I'm a qualified social worker in Australia by Australian standards, and I also have an undergraduate in a Masters of Counselling. So my interest in crystals, because I've got the background, you can check out my biography on my website anyway, because I've put that up there. But basically my interest in crystals is the metaphysical and how to incorporate them as part of healing. So just a reminder that there is no scientific evidence to support the value of using crystals. However, in my opinion and many other people, we can receive benefits, but I'll talk about that later. What else can I say? Just to mention to you, I do put timing stamps in the description of my videos, because I can go down a tangent and tend to waffle sometimes, and I realise that time is of the essence for many people. They don't have a lot of time, so that's there to help you out, and I tend to have a pattern there. What else can I mention? Yes, I do a transcript. I don't always stick to it. That's up there. I do have a dog. Sometimes I get interrupted. There may be differences with the audio, because sometimes I stop and start through the recording process, because you know what? Life interferes, and I just work around it as best I can. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into today's content. And today, of course, we're talking about spider web jasper. To be upfront about this, spider web jasper has not been part of my personal collection of crystals. I've only recently, I guess, been exposed to it because I saw a whole range of product from one of my retailers, or not retailers, wholesalers that I go to, and I was looking for a carved product, and they had some spiderweb jasper. So I've ordered some, but I haven't tried it out yet. And I thought, look, I'm going to do my research on this. I'll do a video about it, because that's going to educate and inform me as well. And when I do these videos, not only do I, on crystals that I actually don't have physical experience with, I go and I do research it, I Google it, I look at the attributes and properties, and then I allow myself to hone into my own psychic gifts and metaphysical gifts, if you like, to try and get more information about what might be the value of a crystal. And this is what I've done with spiderweb jasper. There's not a lot of it on the market, from what I can see. It's not super rare. So to put this into perspective, it's around, but it doesn't seem to be really commonly available through a lot of places. And the piece that I saw actually was red, because it's got China. The piece I've ordered is from China, and it's found in China. But at the same time, I thought, look, we've got this black and white webbing, if you like, that's also from China as well. But you'll see, because I've put images up, that there's variations in the colours of the white part, the non-webbing part, if you like, the background colour of spiderweb jasper. So basically, this is what I'm talking about today with this video, is the spiderweb jasper that takes on this appearance. Now, of course, one of the things that has been a consideration for me as I do my research on spiderweb jasper is that the colouring is not pure white. very rarely is it more white. And if it is the white, it's going to be associated very much with the crown chakra. So if you're looking at the image here and you see that I've got purple for the crown chakra, yes, that is the case. It's kind of a lavender purple as well. But the crown chakra is also often represented by the color white. So when we have a black and white crystal, it's working with primarily the crown chakra and what we call the earth star chakra, which sits about a foot beneath your feet if you're standing up. It's kind of the grounding and anchoring type chakra. But we could say that the primary focus of Spiderweb Jasper is to do with your base chakra, your earth star chakra, and the crown chakra, but also anything in between, because you're talking about opening up a channel there along all of the chakras and grounding and connecting that into the earth as well. And this is why I decided to refer to it from a metaphysical overview perspective as a stone of consciousness. When you look at the tumbled stones that we've got here in this image, you'll see that the colouring is more white. It's more distinctive with the black veining and webbing on it. So from a summary perspective, and if you're new to the channel, yes, I've got slides further along where I go into more detail, but it's definitely a stone of consciousness, of grounding, protection, higher awareness or spiritual awareness, and that higher consciousness, which is about the connection between all of us. We're all connected at some level. The returning visitors will already know my viewpoint when it comes to the zodiac. This is just information that I give to you, and it's basically because it's out there, it's on the internet. It's not necessarily my belief, because I actually believe if you are attracted and drawn to a crystal because of the energy and the feelings associated with it, or if you find that when you hold it in your hand that it carries energy and vibration that you can feel, then that's the crystal that you need to buy for you. Unfortunately, we do a lot of buying online these days. Not everybody gets the opportunity to go into a facility and actually handle the crystals before they purchase, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing these videos. But anyway, what you will see online is that there is a recommendation for those people with the star signs of Libra and Virgo that they would benefit from Spiderweb Jasper. My position, of course, is don't let your star sign either encourage or deter you from buying a crystal. This is because if we go by that, sometimes we can buy a crystal. It's not going to do us any harm. But the bottom line is there might be another crystal out there that has similar type properties that we're looking for. Like when you do a Google, and let's say you were wanting to, not with Spiderweb Jasper, but let's say you wanted something that worked with your yellow chakra, which carries the attributes of confidence, if you've lost confidence, if you've been betrayed a lot and that kind of thing, because this is to do with the yellow chakra. You might decide that you do your research and straight up you see that pyrite's very popular for the yellow chakra. But the reality is you might buy pyrite, but if you actually went into a shop and you were to handle it, and then maybe handle a piece of, say, yellow calcite, which carries the same properties or similar type properties, and tiger eye and that kind of yellow tiger eye I'm talking about, you might actually decide through handling that you actually have a stronger attraction to another crystal that works with the same chakra. So this is the same approach to take with any crystal purchase, okay, whether it's Spiderweb Jasper or not. If you're looking to expand your consciousness, then ideally you would actually be able to go and handle the crystal to work out which one is for you, and you wouldn't let your star sign deter you or promote you buying. So as I said at the beginning of the video, sometimes I've got to stop and start, and today's one of these days where I am stopping and starting, so I apologise for any changes or alterations in the volume and pitch and that kind of stuff. But anyway, on to this slide here. Just a reminder, I'm not a geologist or specialist, so this is information I've managed to get online, and it has value for me and probably you if you're looking at buying some of the Spiderweb Jasper, because it's important to know what the hardness is when we're caring for our crystals. When we're buying our crystals, it helps us to understand whether or not we're actually getting a quality piece, or so that we don't pay too much for our crystals. So anyway, the bottom line is that as far as hardness goes, it's about a 6.5 to a 7, which is pretty, it's not super hard, but it means that it can actually cope with a lot of the things that we do. with it. For example, if it was a tumbled stone and you dropped it on your bathroom floor, it would probably cope with at least a couple of drops without shattering. As far as the colour goes, it is generally speaking black, grey and white, but as you'll see from looking at the images, that what we call the white part of spiderweb jasper sometimes looks a bit on the greyish side. The other thing that I would make the point of, and I haven't been able to get any photographs of it yet, is that the stuff in China tends to have a little bit more red on it. And then when I was doing my research and Googling, there were some positions that spiderweb jasper isn't red, that if it's got redness to it, that it's called Picasso jasper or picture jasper, which I think I've managed to get together enough photographs to show people that actually, this is part of your buying experience, and I'll look at tips in a moment. I'll look at those images and talk about them shortly. But you will see that it's actually nothing like the spiderweb jasper, even if it's got the red in it. So what we're looking for is the webbing, and this is what we do get with the stuff out of China that has the black with a little bit of red on it. And sometimes I think it's got more red, but I'm not sure. So your feedback on this would be actually quite helpful. As far as transparency goes, my understanding that all of the spiderweb jasper is opaque, and that means that if you hold it up to the sun, you're not going to get any light through it. There's no transparency. It's certainly not translucent. The luster, and I don't know if that's the correct word or texture to be used for spiderweb jasper, is that it's fine and grainy. And this means that if you've got a raw piece of it, it probably feels a little bit sandy when you run your finger across it. But I would imagine that if it's polished, it's going to have that glossy or waxy type look for it. Now, as far as spiderweb jasper goes, as far as sources go, it is found in this form that we're looking at here in the USA, in Mexico. Apparently we've got it in Australia. I haven't seen it. And it can also be found in India. China is not actually listed on most of the sites that I've seen as being a source of spiderweb jasper. But obviously I know that it is because I'm buying some and it's being delivered to me. And I think at this point, because quite often I forget to say this, is a lot of the times with countries like China and Madagascar and that kind of thing, a lot of the rocks and crystals are actually found by people that are just going out there and hunting for them, the prospectors. They're not formal mine sites, and this is probably why they're not listed on any of these websites that I go looking at, which would be considered to be reasonably accurate, I would like to think. The geology information, I tend to go to a lot of those. I just realised as I'm talking to you, the dog's doing zoomies with his squeaky toy, and I've got wooden floorboards. So if you hear all this lunacy in the background, that's what's going on. Now, of course, Googling for images, when I was talking about the red spiderweb jasper, I actually have a feeling that the product that I'm going to get is going to look like we see in the image on the left-hand side. Now, for your information, this stuff's being marketed as red Picasso jasper, the same as the one on the right-hand side. So both of the left and right images are red Picasso jasper. The one on the right doesn't look anything like, as far as I'm concerned, the webbed type product that I'm looking at with spiderweb jasper, but the red one does. So, there is a chance that perhaps the Chinese jasper that's being promoted as spiderweb jasper, it may actually be Picasso jasper. But the other thing, the image in the center, the central one, that's actually another example of spiderweb jasper, and apparently that particular piece was found in the US. So these are just some examples of what you might be looking at when you buy it. Now, having said that, as far as the identification goes, as best we can, my other buying tips are, as always, know what you're buying, take a look at it. If you can get a video of the product that you're buying, especially if it's a carving, get them to show you the front, back and sides of it. If not by photographs, a video would be really good. Also know the weight, the dimensions, because that helps you to really understand what you're actually getting for your money, and also the freight charges. If you're buying from overseas on a platform, you want to know the hidden fees, the platform costs, the taxes, And also currency conversion plays a big part in this. So if you're a returning visitor, you will know the story where I paid nearly $100 for a tumbled stone. And this was part of me making this journey of doing videos because, look, it was a fine piece, but it certainly wasn't worth 100 Australian dollars. That being said, the crystal itself, I purchased, it was a piece of nummite if people are interested. I think it only cost me about $20 to buy it. But then by the time they put on something like $40 for freight and the other fees and that kind of stuff, it blew out and it actually converted to, I think it was 98 or 99 Australian dollars, which is just insane. I wouldn't have done it if I'd been paying attention. So anyway, that's my message to you guys when it comes to buying. Be careful what you buy, know what you're buying, have full awareness of all of those additional costs. Sometimes if you're exchanging, if you're buying an item, say if I'm buying an item in US dollars, I might end up with currency conversion fees on top of that as well. So just a little bit of extra information for you. So when it comes to the spiritual attributes, this is basically, look, with this particular crystal, I had to do a lot of reflection. I like to call it reflection, just my intuitive guidance of what the crystals actually mean. And generally speaking, I do feel that it's relevant or reasonably accurate. So where I've concluded, I've called it a stone of higher consciousness and a stone of universal awareness. So I do believe, because of the chakras that it works with, that it's got that capacity to connect a person to the higher realms, and that includes your guides, guardians, that kind of thing. But at the same time, it has the capacity to connect a person to Mother Earth and the nature kingdom, to allow us to work with them and develop a greater appreciation of the environment in which we live. Now, of course, when you get your crystal, you will probably want to attune it to whatever purpose it is that you're buying it, so if you want to be able to connect to Mother Earth, then you would meditate and hold it and attune it. I've got videos on how to attune your crystals. Okay, but anyway, so that's something there as an option, I believe. I also believe that it's a good protector of your aura. I think I saw this one. I'm not, this is one of those ones I've taken on board, and I can understand the common sense or the rationale behind it, that it is believed to act as a protector of the aura, to shield it against negativity. And for those people that work in the metaphysical fields, such as healing, that it protects against negative attachments, or some people call it psychic attack. Not really one of the terms I use. I like to call it negative attachments, and that spirit that hasn't been to the light. So also it's believed to purify the aura and to balance and align those layers of the aura, because of course we've got a lot of auric layers. If you want to know more about auras, actually go and check out my website, because I've finished off that page and it should be easy to follow. I'm in the process of updating the website. Still working on the chakra content, but either way, it would have that spin-off benefit too of purifying, balancing and aligning the chakras to make sure that they function well. The higher consciousness is referred to, I believe, by the webbing that you see in the crystal, which is that reference. It's got two references when we've got webbing on a crystal, and one is about the manifestation process usually. The other one, of course, is that higher consciousness aspect and the knowledge and understanding that we are all connected at some level, at some level. We all carry the namaste or the divine spark within us, and so we're all connected at some point somewhere, the same as we have connections to earth, we have connection to spirit, all of this kind of stuff. And of course, you would be able to enhance your meditation processes by aligning the chakras, if that was something that you're wanting to do. And of course, there's physical attributes that I believe the webbing refers to as well. So as far as the physical healing attributes of Spider Web Jasper, this is largely down to my interpretation of what I see with the patterning of a crystal, the way it's formed, whether it sits on the earth, above the earth, below the earth, that kind of stuff plays a role in how we interpret the attributes. But because it's got this patterning in it, whether it is red webbing or black webbing or even white webbing, to me, that is a reference not only to the interconnectedness, that we see with spiritual attributes, but also within the body. We're talking about nerves, neural pathways. So if people have got problems with their nerves, or the neural pathways, the neuropathy of the brain, then that would be beneficial. When you're talking about black and white, you're also talking about balance. And so, therefore, I believe it would be beneficial to balance the hemispheres of the brain as well. It's also associated with the skeletal system, and I interpret that also as helping to improve the bone strength. So, if people have got conditions such as osteoporosis or problems walking with their mobility, all of that kind of thing, then hopefully, prevention is better than a cure. If you've got predispositions in your family biology, then you might want to wear it, or meditate with it, or have it sleep, if I can speak, put it under your pillow, that kind of thing. Certainly if you've got mobility issues, you might actually want to wear it as a jewellery item or as a tumbled stone in your bra if you've got them. As far as the body organs go, it is supposed to support healthy function of that. Don't quote me on it because I really can't remember at this point in time, that I believe that it will benefit the waste elimination system. And that's the detoxification, So we're talking about bowel conditions there. We're talking about urine conditions if you've got predispositions towards urinary tract infections and that kind of thing, then it might actually help to soothe those conditions or to heal them. It's also recommended, I did see on the website that it's recommended for any stomach type ailments if you've got liver issues and gallbladder. Now, that being said, I'm just telling you what I saw online because I'm not seeing how they've reached that conclusion, because those are primarily issues of I'm having a mind gap here, of the solar plexus chakra. They're the yellow chakra. And so I don't really see that would be the case. But if I had any of those conditions, I wouldn't rule it out. Okay, that would be one of the things that I might see online as a recommended treatment, and go into a store and feel them and handle them and see if I get energy as far as using them. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, maybe you'll receive benefit. But just that reminder again, that you don't use crystals to replace proper medical treatment. If you've got any health conditions, always speak with your doctor. In most instances, using crystals is not going to do any harm. I'll be straight up. I've never known of anybody to be harmed by working with crystals. But at the same time, I keep an open mind. I'm not the be-all and end-all of everything. Okay, from an emotional and psychological perspective now. So this is one of those occasions when technology fails me. I actually finished the recording. When I was coming back and doing my edits, I realised that somehow or other the audio for this particular slide hadn't gone up, which is a bit of a shame actually, because I felt I'd done all right with it. Bottom line, when it comes to the emotional metaphysical attributes and the mind or thinking psychological attributes, I perceive Spiderweb Jasper to be more about the power of the mind than the power of emotions, I guess is the best way to describe it. There are emotional attributes that are calming, but I would say my gut instincts anyway are that this particular crystal works on your thoughts, your thinking processes. If you struggle with things like a lack of being able to be rational, because we can't have too much of one and not the other. We do have to be able to rationalize those large emotional responses. And in the process of doing that, of course, this is about the neural pathways. Behavior change becomes associated with this. So if you struggle with concepts of limiting thoughts, hopelessness, believing that things can't be done, then Spiderweb Jasper would be one to work with, especially if it's got a lot of white in the actual crystal that you have. So you can see on this slide that there is these calming, soothing benefits because it works with the power of the mind. The only thing that I would draw attention to more so than the others is that it enhances that the power of the mind in... Sorry, my dog just went silly just then. That was a bit funny, actually. The brotherhood and sisterhood consciousness, and that becomes the recognition, of course, that we are all connected at some level. And instead of seeing everybody, I mean, that doesn't mean to say that you meet people just walking around the street and invite them into your home. I'm not saying that you do that, but there becomes this underpinning recognition that we are all part of a larger family, and we are all connected in some way. And if you trace your ancestry back and go far enough, you will see that actually our forefathers, by the time we've gone through the generations, we're all part of a one great big massive family on the planet anyway, even if we are not directly related, we're indirectly related to people, even if it's by marriage. But anyway, going back to it, that brother, sisterhood, family, care, regard, that kind of thing. And I think also, perhaps if people have got issues within the family unit, that it might actually be beneficial, if I can speak, beneficial to restoring healthy relationships through the way that we think about those people around us. Also, releasing judgment is a big factor in relationships with all of us, between us and the brother and sister across the pond, or the brother and sister in the family unit, all of those kind of things. I think this video is starting to get a bit long, so I'll just sort of rush over this one, because at the end of the day, when it comes to the uses, I've discussed them actually throughout the course of the video. So yes, you can use it as palm stones because it's easy to carve. Palm stones, worry stones, tumbled stones, they're all very effective sort of uses. A tumbled stone fits basically in your bra. You get them different sizes. You might carry it in your pocket. A worry stone is just something that perhaps if you're feeling anxious and you're overthinking or whatever, you could just basically thumb that. You can meditate with a palm stone. You can pop them under your pillow. Obviously, anything that can be carved into an environmental ornament type thing, and you can actually have the ambient energy. If you're wanting to have protection, of course, amulets and talismans, and even a pendant is great for that. What else have I got? I'm just going to check my notes here as I smack my lips. Very high class. That's not me. Yeah, you might want to put a piece in your healing room. That's the only thing I can see here on the transcript that I haven't really stuck to today. So as far as an oracle message goes with Spiderweb Jasper, I've kind of reflected on it, and I have touched upon it on the previous slides. And this is about the interconnectedness of all of us, right? We are all connected at some level. And this is because we all have a divine spark within us that some people call the Holy Spirit. Some people call it the Namaste, the Christ within. But it's what, as an umbrella term, we can call the divine spark of consciousness, and some people will call this aspect our soul. And it is through this spark that we all connect, because we're all part of a greater pack, if that makes sense. We're a little bit of light that is part of a massive, great big light that we can call Source, God, the divine, the higher conscious, whatever it is you want to name it, right? We're all part of that. And as we go about our earthly and daily business, it is adapting and recognizing that we all have this. We all have this spark within us. And when we expand upon the awareness and the recognition that we are all part of one great big family, if you like, that's the brother and sisterhood consciousness. And we start to recognize that that business of I am that I am, and everybody is I am that I am. And I think I did a saying many years ago, I am and we are. I am is the first stage of consciousness, recognition of who and what we are at a core, which is an aspect of the divine. And then we have that expanded consciousness that everybody else is, and we are all part of this divine, greater, higher pool of consciousness, I guess is a way of describing it. And that when we do something to another person, then we are actually doing it to ourselves. So if we live our lives being unkind or having unkind thoughts about other people, effectively we're hurting ourselves as well. So I'm not sure that I'm articulating this correctly, but there becomes the recognition and the knowledge and the understanding that, people talk about karma. Karma is a consequence to actions. Interconnectedness is the recognition that if I hurt you, I hurt me. If I show you love, I show me love, and it's about catching us when we're holding unloving and unkind thoughts, I think, and being able to convert those thoughts to positive. That doesn't mean to say that we delude ourselves. There's a fine line between recognizing the connectedness and trying to delude ourselves, because not everybody is awake and not everybody is aware. And so sometimes they may be coming from a perspective of questionable intent. And that's okay, right? Because they're on their journey and we're on ours. What we can do is actually manage that if we see that in them, instead of being judgmental and unkind towards them, like, becoming aggressively reactive towards them for what we perceive their character flaws are, because we're talking about the character in those instances, we're not talking about the divinity. It's instead of judging them as somewhat inadequate, just, okay, they're where they are and they can change tomorrow, and I'm not going to think harshly or unkindly of them because they have human character flaws. Instead, I will focus on the fact that actually underneath it all, they are divine, and I will treat them with kindness, even though I may logically and rationally feel that they don't deserve it. But what I will do, that becomes a whole different story, actually, is put in place healthy boundaries to maintain my brightness, if that makes sense. But in the meantime, it's, if I hurt them, I think when you've got a level of awareness, you realize if I hurt somebody, if I say something mean to them, if I say something nasty to them, even if I feel that logically and rationally they may deserve my impatience, if you like, we tend to walk away from those scenarios and we carry guilt about it, or we carry self-doubt. Could I have handled that better? So it's not necessarily same. Just if we're unkind to a person and we've got higher awareness, we walk away from it and we question ourselves, and that can actually then lead to feelings and emotions such as guilt or, beating ourselves up. And that creates problems for us in a different way. So I guess it comes down really as a primary message of judge not, or ye shall be judged, that old chestnut. And I used to say back in the day as well, I've got one judge only, and that's my creator. And at the end of the day, I'm only answerable to the divine, you know what I mean? And what you think of me and what you've got to say about me and how I act and how I behave is basically not my concern. That leads to a whole different conversation as well. So let's just say the interconnectedness is the message here. Remember, we are all one of this great big pie circle of life, whether it's the physical universe that we walk around on the earth, or if it is the higher realms. I can't even think of the term right now, but the source information and all the rest of it, we are all connected. And once you start to develop those gifts, you start to recognize it when you realize that actually we intuitively, even if we haven't developed our gifts, we will intuitively pick up on other people's emotions and feelings. And as you develop those gifts, there becomes telepathy as well, where you can actually send a thought to a person and they will pick it up and they will respond physically. That might be a discussion for another day. So as far as care goes, looking after your crystal, if you're not into the metaphysical, it's a pretty hardy crystal. So yes, you can expose it to soap and water if you feel that it needs a clean. Obviously, I consider gentle soaps to be the answer, organic detergent or whatever if you really need it. But most Jasper's going to be fine if you just wipe it off with a soft cloth or whatever if it needs to have the clean part. All the other options, of course, is if you're into the metaphysical as I am, Jasper, you can do your clearing and cleansing by whatever method you choose. I've got the video and I've got the video links in there on options for doing energetic clearing and cleansing. But in case you're not aware, my fallback option is always, because it's so easy, to clear, cleanse, and charge energetically on a piece of selenite. But anyway, look, if you've got some methods or thoughts on what we can do to care for our crystals or care for our spider web jasper, do let us know. I'm not sure if the unpolished jasper is susceptible, because it's got the sandy and grainy texture. I don't know if it actually soaks up anything in the environment. Sometimes rocks will do that. And by that, I mean if you spilled some Coke over it, if you were that kind of person, whether or not it would turn parts of the jasper brown, I don't know. But if it's polished, of course, there becomes a bit of a seal and a protectant on it. What else could I say as far as crystal care goes? Look, most of the time, I think if you've got it sitting out in the environment, a little bit of a dust off will just do, a soft cloth, dust it, it'll be fine. Yeah, I think that's about all I can add for that, and I will just wait for your comments. And until then, my friends, I'm going to call it a day and just say to you, look, thank you very much for being part of my journey. I realise this video has been stop and start. It's just been absolutely hectic here today, but such is life. It happens. And anyway, so I'm going to say, look, love you, leave you, catch you on the next video. Take care. Thanks for being there. Bye-bye for now.